Hello everybody. Today I'm going to break down the 2013 World Series between the Boston Red Sox and the St. Louis Cardinals for the Commissioner's Trophy. We're going to see who's going to win this one. We're going to break it down, analyze it, and then pick basically a team here who I think who's going to prevail and be the champion. We're going to look at a few different categories. We're going to go position by position. We're also going to look at the pitching matchups possibly. Also offensive categories and see who will prevail there. Also look at pitching from the bullpen. We'll look at the bench and the manager and the coaches. So we'll sit back, relax. I'm going to give you my honest opinion, and hopefully you'll enjoy the video. Alright, so we're going to start off with Boston and their left fielder. Right now their left fielder is Johnny Gomes or Daniel Nava. They've split duty there. Basically, you got those players against our left fielder in St. Louis, Matt Holliday. I'm going to go with Matt Holliday. He's a proven winner. He hits. He actually is a threat. He can't hit the long ball. He can drive in runs. He's a 300 hitter. And so even though there's been times where he hasn't produced when you really need him, I'm going to get Matt Holliday the nod at left field. We'll start with the center field position, and we're going to look at Jacoby Ellsbury versus either John Jay. And at this point here, Jacoby Ellsbury is going to be the pick. He's a better offensive player, equally about as good as John Jay defensively, even though John Jay has had a tough playoff so far defensively, with a couple mishaps against LA. But overall, I think Jacoby Ellsbury is going to offer speed. He's going to be a little bit better on the base paths, and obviously he's a better hitter overall. So as far as center field, we'll give the nod to Jacoby Ellsbury. In right field, you're looking at Carlos Beltran for St. Louis. As far as the right fielder for Boston, Shane Victorino. Both great offensive players. They add a lot of speed and spark to their team. At this point here, Carlos Beltran has been the prolific playoff player for several years. Once given the opportunity, he really excels this time of the year. Cardinals are doing everything they can to get him a world championship now. So I'm going to give the edge to Carlos Beltran, as he's been a Cardinal killer for years, and now being on the Cardinals, he's doing the same to other teams. So Carlos Beltran will win out at right field. As far as the third base position, right now third base you got Will Middlebrooks against St. Louis Cardinals 2011 MVP David Freese. As far as that, looks like overall David Freese probably a little bit better offensively, probably about the same defensively. So with David Freese having an MVP in the World Series under his belt, I'm going to give David Freese a nod at third base. For shortstop, you're going to have basically Pete Kozma at short for the St. Louis Cardinals. As far as the Boston Red Sox, you got Stephen Drew. That's J.D. Drew's brother. And really with this position here, J.D. Drew is more offensive. He's sound defensively. Even though Pete Kozma is a sound defender, his offense is not as good. Obviously, he's a bottom of the order type player, so we're going to give the nod to Stephen Drew as the better shortstop. Second base, we're looking at, for right now, it's going to be Matt Carpenter at second base versus Dustin Pedroia. And I would have to give the nod to Dustin Pedroia because he's done it. He's obviously one of the best second basemen in the American League. They both hit for good averages. Matt Carpenter had a great year, but at this stage of the game, since Matt Carpenter has fell off a little bit, at the end of the season and then in the playoffs, he just started getting back going again. So we got to wait and see what happens with him. But right now, I'm going to give the edge at second base to Boston's second baseman, Dustin Pedroia. Let's talk about the first baseman. And for St. Louis, great news right now. You got Alan Craig coming back from his foot injury. and Matt Adams, who's taken over well and done everything he's been asked to do. So You got those two players. Probably what's going to happen is Matt Adams going to start as the first baseman, especially on the road, where Alan Craig will be the DH. That's from what we've heard right now. Nothing's been official, but that's what we're hearing. And as far as the first baseman, you got Mike Napoli, who's been playing a lot of first base, who was Texas Rangers catcher. So he's filling the void over at first base right now. And then I'm going to give the nod over to St. Louis right now with Matt Adams. And obviously if Alan Craig is playing, we're going to still be ahead of what Boston is looking at first base. So first base, we got Matt Adams. As far as catcher, there's not even anywhere. I mean, you can't even compare anybody to Yachty. So his 5 Gold Gloves, possibly MVP this year before the injury. Defensively, he's the best in the business. So don't even have to name who the other player is. It doesn't matter. So Yachty's basically an extra coach. He cuts off the running game, which we know that Boston has a couple speedsters with Pedroia at the top of their lineup and Victorino, who like to run. We're going to see if Molina can cut down the running game and really see what happens with that. So there's going to be basically a game within a game as we look at that position. So a lot of times, if you look at the catcher, it's the pitcher that allows that stolen base. But Molina has had a proven track record to cut off that running game and be a main force. I think he's cut off basically 44% of the runners, which is the best in the whole league. As far as pitching, we looked at everybody from a position standpoint. So at this point here, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 position players for the Cardinals giving the lead. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 players for Boston. So the nod on the position by position we're going to give to the Cardinals. Let's talk about pitching. We do know possibly the first 4 starters. You got Adam Wainwright, 19-game winner, against John Lester, a 15-game winner. These pitchers are dominant. There's a reason why these teams are here, because of their starting pitching. I'm going to give the edge to the Cardinals overall on that game with Adam Wainwright, even though the game is in Boston. But you got to look at the Cardinals needing to come out with at least 1 victory there, and that's the person I'm looking at to get that victory. As far as the second game, you probably have John Lackey against Michael Wacha, the rookie, the kid. He's been unstoppable, and he's been really the talk. So you got 2 great pitchers to come out for St. Louis, and they could easily be up 2-0 at this point if their pitching is as good as it is. So, but Boston will have that crowd behind them, and we'll have to take a look and see what happens. At this point, Clay Buchholz's probably against Joe Kelly in Game 3, and that the Cardinals have a little bit deeper rotation. And we haven't even talked about Shelby Miller yet, who hasn't even seen really much pitching at all in the postseason. And he's basically there for long relief. They're trying to keep his innings down. So we're looking at him possibly coming in just in case our pitching, goes south during one of the games. So I think it's going to be Jake Peavy. That's what we hear too. It's possibly Jake Peavy against Shelby Miller, or I'm sorry, against Lance Lynn in that 4th game. So Peavy's had some, he had a rough start in the ALCS. So we'll look at Lance Lynn, who has 2 victories. As much as I hate to say it, I hate Lance Lynn, but he's got the job done so far. So hopefully it can stay its course, and we don't have to worry about any problems with Lance Lynn. Shelby Miller will be ready to go if need be. All right, so we'll give the edge to the Cardinals for the starting pitching matchup in the World Series. Let's talk about the bullpen. To be honest with you, I don't really know a lot about the bullpen from Boston. However, from what media is saying, they are lights out. They've been pretty dominant in the last couple series, as well as the Cardinals. So, but if you're going to pick one over the other, then I'm going to have to say Boston, based on some of the information I'm getting on the Boston bullpen. Cardinals have a great bullpen. With Martinez coming out, Segrist late in the games, and then you got the flamethrower Rosenthal coming in the ninth inning. You got great pitching that if the Cardinals have a lead late, you got to figure it's going to be tough for them to score. So even though I'm going to give the nod to Boston in the relief, then it's going to be pretty tight. They've both done their job, but somebody has to be a winner, so I'm going to give that nod to Boston. Let's talk about the overall hitting. You're talking about the two teams that are #1 in the league in each respective league. So as far as hitting, I'm going to give the hitting overall to the Cardinals. They have almost just an AL lineup. You know, if Craig is the DH or if Matt Adams the DH and Craig is playing first, either way, you got a deep lineup all the way through. They got hitters that work the counts, and that's a key. I think if the Cardinals are going to win, they're going to have to work the counts, get those pitch counts up, see a lot of different pitches, and make them pay. That's going to be a huge thing as far as the offense. As far as the bench, we're going to give the nod to Boston. You know, I think, you know, at this point here, they have a few more veteran players. The Cardinals, you know, I guess Shane Robinson, and right now, if you're looking at Craig coming back, either Craig or Matt Adams adding to the bench, which is going to be a huge impact. But at this point here, we'll give the nod to Boston and their bench overall for the World Series. And then home field advantage, if there is a 7th game, you know, Boston, I think with, you know, having 4 games at home, it's going to be really tough to beat. But overall home field advantage is going to go to Boston and their crowd. Just AWL. Overall manager, you got two fairly new managers. John Farrell was a pitching coach from 2007 through 2010 with Boston, and you got Mike Matheny, who's basically in his 2nd year. Mike Matheny, in 2 years, gone to an NLCS, was 1 game away from the World Series. You got John Farrell, new manager, 1st year, now in the World Series. So at this point here, you got to give the edge to Matheny because he has an extra year of experience, and but hopefully the manager really doesn't come into play to decide a game. It's done by the players. So at this point here, if a manager is going to decide, I like Mike Matheny's role. He hasn't really cost the Cardinals too many games this year, being the manager. As for my prediction, looking at everything, you know, right now there's nobody going into the World Series as the favorite. It's pretty even. Nobody has an advantage like in 2004 where Boston was on elimination, 3 games down 3-0 to the Yankees, won all 3 games, went in and beat St. Louis. In 2004, we were kind of off guard. I think that was not our year. There's something there for Boston to win, and they took it. So this is more of a rematch. I think we don't like what happened last year against San Francisco, and I really like our chances in 6 games. I think if we can get a victory, 1 victory in Boston during the first 2, that sets up our home field advantage in St. Louis for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday of next week, this coming weekend. And if we can take 2 out of 3 in St. Louis, that sets us up to win 1 out of 2 back in Boston. So I'm thinking that with Stan the Man, number 6, been a popular number this year. 6 is a serious number. Let's go with number 6 and have the Cardinals win the World Championship in 2013. Hope you liked the video. I appreciate giving you the insight. Look out for more videos in the future. Please like me on YouTube, and definitely share this video with your family and friends. Have a great day, and go Cardinals.